And welcome to IMSM ISO 45001 Occupational Health and Safety, one of the world's much anticipated standards and one of the world's most anticipated standards, and especially at the way things are today. So I'm here with Maria.
Hi, everyone.
Go ahead, Maria.
Hi, so Anthony is hosting this webinar for us. It's a US edition, and I'll be helping out with some questions if there are any as a lead auditor on occupational health and safety. So, Anthony, thank you very much for doing this webinar. The previous one was such a success. So I hope that people here enjoy what we have prepared for them.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good day. We have a nice turnout, and this is just one of the things that people need. Yes, we're looking at right now at today's rules so people know what's happening. Mics are muted, cameras are disabled. Chat is open for question and comments. We'll approach ISO's 45001 as a strategic decision. 3 exercises. There will be 3 exercises to be solved. There's a Q&A session and a free consultation session offered to attendees. So if you're attending and you feel like you want to know more about the ISOs, just let us know. Reach out, let us know, and we will make that available to you. And the great thing about ISOs and about IMSM is that we're always local. So somebody will call and they'll be like, hey, you can look over the fence and it'll be your neighbor. All right. So this is a great thing. It doesn't matter what country you're in or what part of the world you're in. Somebody will be talking to you and you'll be like, hey, guess what? And they'll be, you know what? I'm watching that same thing happen right out my window. All right. So ISO 45001 is the new standard on occupational health and safety. ISO 45000 provides an international framework to enhance employee safety, reduce occupational risks, create better and safer working conditions.
I'm switching on your slide. There is a tiny delay. You know that?
Yes, I do.
Sorry.
And one of the things everybody needs to know is while we're switching to time slides and everything, is that ISO 45001 is an update from the 18001. But the most important thing is not the change or something like that. The most important thing is that people are aware of ISOs and how much it can help you in any way. Here's some facts. ISO 45001 2018 facts. It is the world's first international standard addressing occupational health and safety, and health, and developed with the input of experts from more than 70 countries. It provides a clear and unique framework and sets the minimum standard of practice to protect employees worldwide. It is aimed at the top management and based on OSHA's 18001. Transition period ends in May 2021, which we'll see how that works out. But basically, I think that with this, the framework, that this is an international standard, and that no matter where you go in the world, people are using ISO 45001. And we have here the Deming cycle. This is something that's it's a continuous improvement. Plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, check, act. So that the life of your system is always being changed. It's always being updated, and you know what's happening. There's never a time when you're wondering we need to restart this. It's always started. The system keeps updating, and by that I mean that it can be changed and it can be upgraded constantly because it's not something that we're going to just like ignore and put there. It's a part of your life. It's a part of your system. And the idea is always to keep it simple so that it keeps changing and so it keeps updating.
So,
All right, where's the
guys,
first
yeah,
exercise?
first exercise, may I just jump in while you guys are reading the exercise? Let's say that Anthony says we are switching from OSHA's 18,001 to ISO 45,001. And let's see how prepared we are to move to make this migration between standards. So while we're reading the scenario, and let's suppose that we're a company that has switched from one standard to another, and we are auditing internally our system. While we're reading all this scenario, don't pay too much attention to what I'm saying, just a quick update on some information. As Anthony said, ISO 45001 is actually the first international standard, although everyone refers to OSHA as an international standard. Interestingly enough, it is not. It's a British standard only, just used as good practice. And it is really, really very good. However, it's limited. And then some further information. We are supposed to switch to ISO 45001 in May this year, as we've just said, because of COVID. But please don't tell anyone, because they may become less focused on doing it now. We have 6 more months just in case, but let's stick to May 2021. So a couple of minutes more for you, and I'm going to ask you a question and give you a couple of, or 3 or 4 possible answers. So write down your answer, and we'll discuss which one will be the correct one before we start our Q&A session. I hope I haven't distracted you too much talking while you were all reading. Apologies if I did. So, let's see what the question would be and how we could answer this question. So, this first exercise asks, in our roles as internal auditors, how do you think we should proceed? Option 1, investigate further and request additional records. Option 2, directly register a non-conformity. Option 3, call attention to the person in charge. Option 4, report immediately to senior management. Or a final option 5, organize a training course. So 1, investigate further. 2, register a non-conformity. 3, call attention to the person in charge. Option 4, report to management. Or 5, train people. So, as I say, we'll discuss the correct answer before we start Q&As. Over to you, Anthony. I've switched slides now.
Okay, so what's new in ISO 45001? ISO 45001 concentrates on the interaction between an organization and its business environment, while OSHA's 18001 was focused on managing OHS and S hazards and other internal issues.
So here we go with your further details and differences between ISO and OSHA. Maybe in 3, 2, 1.
Exactly. So the main difference between 18,001 and 45,001, a 45,001 is process-based. 18,001 is procedure-based. 45,001 is dynamic in all clauses. 18,001 is not. 45,001 considers both risk and opportunities. 18,001 deals exclusively with risk. And I think one of the keys there is when we think of the Plan, Do, Check, Act, is that that's how this comes about. We see how 45,000 is 18,001 is working, and then people from all over the world have input on how it can improve, and now we have 45,001. And if you are certified to 18,001, how do you begin the migration? First off, perform the analysis of interested parties, establish the scope of the system, use this information to design processes, risk assessment and evaluation, and KPIs.
Sorry. We are now coming to the next slide, which is what happens if we are new to ISO 45001.
All right.
Already on?
So, yeah. So when we're new to 45,001, and how do you get started? And you get started by performing an analysis of your organization's context. All right. So, and then there's establish the scope of the system and set up a occupational health and safety policy and objectives. And we're going to define the time frame, determine any competence and or resource gaps.
Okay, and now we'll be going for our second exercise. In a couple of seconds, it's gonna pop in. Again, we'll be asking you to resolve a audit situation as internal auditors. Okay. Did you get it?
Yes.
Brilliant. So again, we are internal auditors, which means that we're auditing our own company, but a department which is not the one we work for. Very important. Independence is one of the auditing principles. We can't audit our own work. Okay. Just a minute or two for you to read it thoroughly. Anthony, shall I ask the question now?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Exercise 2. In our role as internal auditors, what action do you think we should take? Always the same question, indeed. And 5 different options. Option 1, interview other members of management. Option 2, investigate more in general. Option 3, document directly a non-conformity. Option 4, recommend an improvement action. Or option 5, it's all good. We are going to document a conformity. And again, 1, interview other member of management. 2, investigate more in general, 3, document a non-conformity because we're not happy with our findings. Or recommend an improvement action. Finally, option 5, we may be happy with our findings and then we're going to document a conformity. Okay, Switching now to success factors for you, Anthony.
Yes, the success factors. Okay, success factors are management, leadership, commitment, and responsibilities. All right, culture that supports the expected results of occupational health and safety management system. Communication, consultation, and participation of workers and, if they exist, their representatives. Resources to maintain the system. Occupational health and safety policies compatible with the strategic objectives and direction. Processes to identify, evaluate, and control risk. A continuous evaluation and monitoring of the system's performance. Integration into the business processes. Objectives align with the office occupational health and safety policy to identify risk and opportunity. Compliance with legal, regulatory, and contractual requirements. So those are all the success factors, and they really just bring everything together. Because when you have the management team and they support the occupational health and safety, everybody's on the same page. When you get everybody working off one sheet, then things really work well together. The benefits of ISO 45001, it's a systematic approach, creation of a health and safety culture, reduction of workplace incidents, reduces absentee and staff turnover leading to increased productivity, reduced cost of insurance premiums. It reinforces leadership commitment to proactively improve the occupational health and safety performance. The ability to meet legal and regulatory requirements, enhance reputation, improve staff morale. And the ISO certification, international recognition, stockholders trust, regular check, continual improvement. Yes, and it's just like, again, if you have everybody working off one sheet and everybody's aware of like what the health and safety policies are, if you create a culture where 45,001 is how we work and how we do things like every day, everything on there is what happens.
Brilliant, because we like to represent certification, third-party certification as a benefit, which it is, and people normally get so scared when they hear the word certification, third-party, external audit. We have prepared a third exercise for you guys. This time, we're going to join a third-party auditor and try to see, to perceive what the auditor is going to do in the following audit situation. Please read the text carefully, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions, 3, 4, maybe 5, and we'll pick up an answer just to illustrate the difference between what you may be thinking about external audits and what actually is going to happen if you are audited externally. There we go, a couple of minutes, if you don't mind. Anthony, please let me know when you think that I should ask the question.
Okay. I think we can go.
Brilliant. So guys, what action do you think the external auditor will take? Option 1, None, because they will be fully satisfied with their findings. Option 2, none, because the observation has occurred during their lunch break. Option 3, the auditor is going to investigate further. Option 4, the auditor is going to recommend an improvement action. Or option 5, they will directly document a non-conformity. So again, 1, they're not going to take any action because they will be fully satisfied. Option 2, they're not going to do anything because the observation has occurred during their break. Option 3, they will investigate further. Option 4, they will recommend an improvement action. Or option 5, they will document directly a non-conformity. So, this said, I'll get it back over to you, Anthony, now.
Okay. So we have the third-party
Third
audit.
party, yeah.
All right. So third-party audit. Keys and the reason to have an audit are it determines conformance to requirements, determine the effectiveness of the system, improve the system, meet regulatory requirements, meet contractual requirements for marketing and reputational purposes. So it's always good to have like that third-party audit. If you have somebody from the outside, we can get another opinion. Audit principles: integrity, fair presentation, due professional care, confidentiality, independence, evidence-based approach, and a risk-based approach.
This is the moment that you may decide to change some of your answers, guys. Not too late to do it after those audit principles have been mentioned.
Exactly. Because definitely the audit principles are like really very important.
Yeah, this slide with the principles and the one that is popping up straight away now on your screens can give you some of the correct answers to your audit scenarios. Over to you, Anthony.
All right, step 1, hazard identification. Step 2, identifying who may be harmed and how. Step 3, risk assessment to determine whether existing measures are appropriate or whether more needs to be done. Step 4, documenting findings. And step 5, assessment review and new actions planning if necessary. Now, the actions to address risk and opportunities: risk assessment, routine and non-routine activities and situations, human factors, new or changed hazards, possible emergency situations, staff and stakeholders, changes in knowledge and information about hazards. Okay, so yes, that's very key, those 5 points and the actions to address the risk.
This
Now,
assessment is essential in ISO standards.
now concluding, the transition period to migrate systems in conformity with ISO 45001 ends in May. Employees, managers, and business owners aim at a common goal with occupational safety and health. Your partners and other stakeholders have their expectations set on you as you have yours set on them. Show that you're reliable. Ask them to do the same. ISO 45001 is considered a revolutionary standard by occupational health and safety professionals. By adopting goals, practices is becoming crucial to reputation.
Thank you, Anthony. That was so clear. Shall I now, before we start the Q&A session, answer the questions?
Let's answer the questions, yes.
Okay, I'll bring up as well the scenarios for us to be able to see what's actually written on the screen. Then, how prepared are we to mitigate our OSHA systems? And we had 5 options in here. Let me just go through all of them again. 1, investigate further. 2, register non-conformity. 3, call attention to the person in charge. 4, report immediately to management or organize a training course. So, normally, most people here give us a very interesting answer, which is investigate further. I'm not saying that this answer is incorrect. It could be a very correct answer if, indeed, after your further investigation, you decide that there is a non-conformity to be registered. So, again, why I'm saying this is important. When you don't have too much experience or you don't feel very comfortable, please go safe, opt for a further investigation as a solution. In this case, however, as a lead auditor, I have enough evidence to file a non-conformity. Remember when Anthony said that the standard was very dynamic, very flexible? Indeed it is. And as a lead auditor, I know the standard pretty well, and I would be able to file a non-conformity on different aspects of the standard. For instance, changes not being properly managed, or communication not being properly articulated. However, there was a very interesting slide to which we paid quite a lot of attention, and which said risk assessment. Most lead auditors and most internal auditors should be able to identify that there is a risk assessment not being carried out as a procedure under this audit scenario. So we should be able to identify a non-conformity based on the fact that no risk assessment has been carried out. It is essential to every single ISO management system standard. So if you have managed to identify either further investigation or directly non-conformity, you have given a correct answer. Well, why call attention to the person in charge or report immediately to management or organizing a training course wouldn't be correct answers? Back to our auditing principles. We must be independent. We must make our decisions based on evidence, on risk assessment. We must be fair. We do not interfere with the processes. We observe, we make decisions only on evidence. So, calling attention, reporting, or organizing anything is not doesn't form part of the auditor's duties or responsibilities. On the contrary, we must avoid taking any further actions. Anything that you might like me to add on this one, Anthony?
No, I think you hit it right on the head. It's just really understanding it, and I think you put it quite well. So.
Thank you. So let's have a look on the second one. We have another scenario in here. Anthony, do you have any questions about this scenario? Something that may sound wrong to you?
About this scenario? No, not really.
Okay. So again, let me review the potential answers to the question, what should we do? So we should interview all the members of management. We don't have enough with this one. We should investigate more in general. We should document a non-conformity. We should recommend an action, an improvement action, or document a conformity. So based on what I just said, recommending an improvement action should be started by default. We cannot do it. It is not our job. We need to be independent and just absolutely evidence-based. Well, what's the next step? Well, as I say, if we have any doubt, we should go with further investigation. In general, that would be a correct approach. However, as an auditor, a third-party auditor, I have enough evidence to determine a non-conformity, even if I didn't know ISO 45001 well enough, based on the fact that all ISO standards say pretty much the same and they have exactly the same structure. I'm talking about management system standards. They have exactly the same requirements. We should be absolutely capable of identifying a clear non-conformity. So this is because ISO management system standards require some information to be documented. And in this case, in the final paragraph, we see that there is no practice of documenting information which is required to be identified and documented. Anthony, would you like me to add anything else to this slide?
To this, no, I think that's exactly it. Exactly what you're saying there.
Yeah. So, based again on our previous knowledge of ISO standards, we can be pretty confident and directly file a non-conformity in here. Well, third scenario, we have been working close to a third-party auditor, and the third-party auditor might have decided to do nothing, either because he's satisfied with the findings or because he was having a break. He may decide to investigate further. He may decide to recommend an improvement action, or why have I assumed that he is the guy? Sorry about that. He or she may decide to file a non-conformity directly. Most of the times when I discuss this scenario, people directly tell me that auditors are expected to file a non-conformity. If you have suspected so, guys, you are thankfully very wrong. So, I'm explaining why. You're wrong basically because we don't have enough evidence. Let me go quickly through the rest of the answers, and I'll explain why there's no enough evidence. There's no enough evidence, and what I would do, because I'm going to investigate further and how I would approach it. So, an auditor is an auditor. We will never stop observing during a third-party audit, even if we're on a break, we'll keep observing, we'll keep discussing, we'll keep perceiving what's going on because we're gathering evidence. So no auditor is gonna just to let it go only because they're having their break. No auditor is going to, as I said previously, recommend an improvement action. That's strictly forbidden because we're ruled by the 7 auditing principles, so we're independent. In this particular case, it's very interesting to see that most people are inclined to say, oh yeah, of course, someone told us that this happened, so now there is no conformity. No, guys, this is not the case. As a third-party auditor, I would investigate further because I can't accept someone's words for evidence. So what should I do? Personally, I'm going to ask for further evidence, further records, for instance, previous periods. I'll go further and investigate more people, make sure that I've spoken to people who may or may have not attended the canteen. I'll make sure that actually what the guy is telling me is correct. It is not biased. And to make sure that my opinion is not biased, as I say, I'll go further, I'll investigate, I'll ask to see the posters in different facilities, I'll ask to see the metrics on people attending the canteen for previous periods and for the current period as well. Anthony, do you have any questions on this particular scenario?
Not really. I think that exactly what you're saying, when you further investigate, especially when you look at previous years to see how many, if there were other suggestions, like last year, were there 2 suggestions, or the previous years, how many suggestions per year are there? Maybe, I guess, like, we can't make suggestions, but I guess at the end of the day, this should be put in the employee handbook, and that sign has to be taken down. But definitely, you've covered basically everything on there. As an auditor, you know, we always have like ideas about like how we would like to see things done, but then we have to consider and remember that your role is the auditor.
Do we have questions? Anything on your side? I think that I've seen a couple of questions in here.
Okay, questions. I am not seeing questions. What are
Okay. There is a couple of questions in here on my side. First question. Oh, thank you, Stephen, for that one. How does the standard help tie together existing legislation? So, as Anthony said at the beginning, ISO 45001, focuses not only on internal issues, but on the business environment, identifies internal and external factors, all stakeholders, including authorities. In section 4, in clause 4, we have to identify all stakeholders involved and how they may affect our activities. There is a specific subclause regarding legislation being fully considered. So, by focusing on your business environment, the standard helps you with putting together a dynamic process on supervising all existing and potential regulations that you may need to consider in your activities. So, Stephen, I hope I have answered your question. Okay, Anthony, anything on your side before I start with the next one?
Start with the next one. That was it.
Okay, good. Insurance policies. That's a very good question. Thank you, Mark. So Mark is asking if insurance policies come down if organizations have implemented ISO 45001, and the short answer is yes. Guys, they do. You can find more information on isos.org official website. So the ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, has carried out a research, and indeed, insurance companies do reduce the insurance policies for companies who can provide that they fully comply with regulations, and ISO 45001 is international standard that helps you prove it efficiently all over your territories, the territories you may operate in. Questions on your side, Anthony?
No questions on my side. I would just say with the insurance that it's always like when you have that playbook and everybody has like adopted that culture, that definitely reduces the insurance. It's you go because the insurance people, like everyone, they go from different places to different places, different businesses, and see how they are operating. And when they become familiar with ISO 45001, and when they're familiar with ISOs and how things work, they're like, oh, you have this, and are you using this? Has this become like the culture here? So definitely it helps to reduce the cost of the insurance.
Okay, another question from Leanne about examples of stakeholders. Leanne, okay, it's a long list. Anyone you may really think of. Customers, your providers, your distributors, shareholders, investors, insurers. We've just discussed insurance companies. Authorities, basically, clause 4, and your legal compliance is considered in there. Competitors, it's extremely important to consider that your competitors are part of your stakeholders. And neighbors, your neighborhood is part of your business environment. And taking into account that we're talking occupational health and safety, and the fact that with ISO 45001, we're not only talking about physical injuries, but also mental health. The standard is focused not only on physical injuries, as I say, but also well-being and potential sickness. So Anthony mentioned something very interesting, that the standard is considered to be a revolutionary standard. Some metrics in here. The International Organization of Labor has estimated that 2.78 million people lose their lives per year because of a work-related accident. Nearly 400 million more are somehow affected physically or mentally as well. And the organization has also calculated that 99% of those fatalities or injuries or illnesses can actually be prevented. And ISO 45001 is the most comprehensive set of guidelines that helps organizations reduce injuries and illness. Anthony, over to you.
Yeah, I would just add the other thing is violations. Like if people were getting like violations from OSHA or they're being inspected, that this greatly reduces like any violations that may come up. So it's less money out of your pocket, out of the company's pocket, more money to do other things with, because you develop a culture where everybody is practicing this. And it's, as Maria was saying, with the injuries to people, the loss of life, and the slowdowns in work, it's a lot of times you see different things happen. And when we see all the things that happen with this OSHA policies, it's like there's a slowdown in work. There's different things that happen as far as what's going on, and it's usually like these things that can be that we need to be aware of. And when we're aware of, and when this becomes the culture, then it is we have everybody on the same page, everybody's working in the same direction. Then it's just that things work so much better, and there's less interruption in the business cycle.
I don't see any further questions, Anthony.
Okay. I have no questions over here.
Brilliant then. Shall we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up.
Guys, thank you for listening. And if you follow IMSM on LinkedIn social media, you'll get alerts on everything we do. This webinar is going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel, so feel free to give us a call, any kind of shout anyway, and we'll help you out with first advice. So thanks again, and see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.